start there. How do you feel about Darwin, Charles Darwin?
He was probably the most important scientist of the 1800s, and he was well ahead of his time. He was very smart, very forward-thinking person.
So, are you one of those people who've never acknowledged his racism?
No, he was so I would say he was okay. Would you say that Abraham Lincoln was progressive or conservative?
I'm not into politics, so I'm not familiar with any of these
Well,
terms.
but we're talking about people being racist. I mean, I know politics doesn't own that, but
I know racism is political, but
okay.
it's also psychiatric.
Yes. Okay. So
You
by
understand? It's
if
also
you want to compare,
societal. It's
sure. Would you consider Abraham Lincoln to be a racist person or not?
yes.
Yes. Oh, okay. Well, a lot of people say no, but as a matter of
I mean,
fact,
but I don't think they're
he
familiar
publicly
with
said
Abraham
some
Lincoln
pretty
did.
some pretty shocking
Yeah,
things,
they're
right?
not familiar. They just know
Yes.
about the Emancipation Proclamation.
However, however, the fact that Abraham Lincoln fought to expand natural rights to all people made him far more progressive and forward thinking than the typical person of his time, right?
So what would that make the
We would say
people
yes,
that?
but in his time,
What would that make the slaves? Would that make them enlightened or like Buddha or something?
I have no idea what you mean by that.
I mean, if Abraham Lincoln is so progressive for his time, and
Yeah.
the foundation that you're putting that on is slavery, right? And these are people who believed in equality. So what would that make them? Would that make them like enlightened, like transcendent?
I I honestly have no clue what that means.
I mean, but you're saying Abraham, you're trying to put Abraham Lincoln and Charles Darwin in their historical context, according
Yes.
to white
That's
supremacy.
uh,
According to
according to the
according to the
time and place
historical
that they lived
according
in.
according to the historical context and the scope of white supremacy. Because if you take that same scope and you put it on
I
the
If you want
slaves,
to say that,
if you
fine, but
if
that's
you
not.
if you take that same scope and you put it on the slaves of that time, then aren't they far more progressive than the Abraham Lincoln would have been?
I guess you could say so, but we're not talking about them.
I know this is like a sidebar thing.
Right. Okay. So, do you consider okay, do you agree that um over time the people collectively become more progressive and more accepting and generally like better and fix their errors? Do you agree that that is the trend of history?
That people become more accepting and better at fixing errors.
So like we become less biased and less racist and blah 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 over long periods of time. Would you agree that that's like been the trend in the developed world?
Who are you referring to once again? Everyone?
The human beings who live on planet Earth. I'm literally talking about everybody.
People become less biased and less racist over time.
Yeah.
And everyone.
More egalitarian could be a word we could use.
More what?
Egalitarian could be another word we could use.
What does that mean? Egalitarian.
It's like it's like living in a pluralistic society and regarding people as being equals even if they're different.
Again, it's like, who are you referring to?
My fucking god. I'm literally referring to everybody. Do you live in the United
I
States or
don't
do you
think
live
you're
somewhere
referring
else?
to everyone. I feel like you're referring to a certain demographic
No, I'm literally referring to
that
populations, which includes everybody in those populations. Okay, do you live in the United States or do you live somewhere else?
I live in the United States. I'm a New Yorker.
Okay, so in the United States, for example, not even that long ago, 50, 60 years ago, there were some places where it's illegal for black people and white people to marry each other. Today, that's not the case. Not that long ago, we had voter discrimination laws. Today, we've gotten rid of a lot of those. We still have work to do. Okay, so would you agree that we have made progress along racial lines?
I would say, literally, honestly, bro, I would be blunt with like I would say that you're talking about Caucasoids and that they have made progress.
What?
Yeah, Caucasians,
Okay.
people who self-identify as such,
You
i.e.,
do know that,
white.
okay, so like we have polling data, and so
I
like,
think you're generalizing that scope
yeah,
as
you
if
have to
that is
generalize when you're
everyone.
talking
I
about the
think you're
entire
coming.
population of a country. You have no
I
choice
think
but to
this is
generalize.
like. I think this is like you're coming from a place of like
You're
I
trying
don't
to
know.
nuke me with woke bombs, and it's not going to
I'm
work
not trying
because
to
I've
nuke
read my
you. You
history.
just no. It's like you're trying to coast me to this ideal that you have for the
I am
world,
not
and
an
it's
ideologue.
just not. It's just not reality, bro. It's just
Yes, it
a
is. Okay,
scope.
so I'm
It's a
just going
biased
to
scope that you choose or that you're bound to for some reason. I think it's partially like mental illness
you think I'm mentally ill?
due to an isolation. Yeah.
You think I'm mentally ill? Okay, whatever.
I
I don't
mean,
I don't
I
care
mean
what you
these
think about me.
statements. I don't think you're mentally ill. I think these statements that you're making presently is
I
hinting at
haven't
some
even been
type
able to
of
make a statement because every time I
complex.
bring up something, you're like, "Are you talking about this or that?" Like, so okay, because this is going nowhere, I'm just gonna make my point, and then you can say whatever you want to say about it. Okay, so I'm trying to talk about. We started talking about Charles Darwin. I brought up Abraham Lincoln for a specific reason. It according to weighed against the typical attitudes and people of his time, he was unquestionably a forward thinker and a more progressive. By our standards, he definitely wasn't. So does that mean that he was racist or something like that? According to us, yeah, but weighed against his own time, it's more nuanced than that. And the reason I ask that is because have we made progress? Yes, we have made progress. For example, if you look at
Against his
polling data
own
for,
time.
no, do not interrupt me. I will be
Against
done
his own
soon.
time. It's
If
just
do not interrupt me or I'm just going to kick you out. We have made progress. If we look at polling data from about 60 years ago, the percentage of Americans who approved of interracial marriages was like 4%. That would also include blacks and whites. Both blacks and whites vastly disagreed on the idea of interracial marriages, whereas today it's pretty much flipped. You find very few people that do not approve of it. So we have made progress. Now, do we think that if we're going to judge them, people in the past, for being racist, then that means that we think we're the good ones? The problem is 100 years from now, people are going to look at us and think we were just as barbaric as people back then. So you have to either accept that we are always evil and racist, or that it's more nuanced than just judging people in the past. That was the entire point. Now with Charles Darwin, yeah, he had racist attitudes like quite a lot of Victorian people in his time. However, like Abraham Lincoln, and fun fact, they were born on the same day in the same year, he had many ideas that did not. First of all, he was a vigorous abolitionist. He didn't agree with slavery at all. And he also thought that the entire human race originated from Africa. What the racist people thought was that there were different groups of people and that we all came from different places, or maybe humans are all one collective thing, but we originated in Europe. He said, no, Africa. Definitely forward thinking for his time. So that's my whole spiel. So do with that what you want.
I don't consider that, as said before, I don't consider that forward thinking. I think you're being biased and you're
What
in a state
what
of
would
some
be
type
an
of
example of
denial.
forward thinking then?
I think
Do
you're
you, do you think that do you think
mythologizing
that
both. I think you're mythologizing both.
do you think that
You just said
Abraham
something
Lincoln getting the
long-winded,
13th and 14th Amendment passed was forward thinking or not?
bro. You just said something long-winded. You gonna let me cook or no? I just let you get off that. You said that pause. You said that long-winded spiel. You gonna let me cook or no? Okay. So I think you're mythologizing Darwin, Charles Darwin, and
No,
Abraham
those were
Lincoln.
facts that I said.
Nah, man. I think it's all biased, man, and I think it's coming from a place of white supremacy in that
I'm not a
scope.
white
You're
supremacist,
putting
so
them against their own time and all of that,
literally
and
calling me
you're
a white
doing it
supremacist
according
is
to white
pathetic.
people today and white people back in the day, and you think that what, yo, bro,
Yeah,
you're a
actually, black people
psychological
are less
flesh.
racist
It's like
today than
you're
they were in the
spewing.
past too.
It's
It
like you're
it it, it
spewing a
counts for everybody.
psychological flesh colored band-aid at me, fam. That's what it's like. It's like putting. It's like you're throwing a
Oh, this is
psychological
funny.
flesh colored band-aid at me, like you're hammering it like it's some kind of prophecy or law or
Okay,
something,
so
and it's
you're not
just a
like
bunch of
you're not
BS,
you're
man.
not you're not
It's
giving
a
me
bunch
data,
of
you're not
BS.
talking about historical facts. You're just giving me prose. It's what your idea of prose is. Like you're just trying to make points and you're calling me a white supremacist. I mean, this is completely pathetic. It's like, do you have anything like substantive to argue here
Bro,
or not?
you're talking about a time you included black people in some kind of vote against marriage, and you're talk like
Vote?
as if there wasn't a period of time where black people couldn't even vote. Like,
I
and you didn't even acknowledge
specifically
that. You
brought up
action
I
you're
specifically
acting
brought
like,
up voting rights earlier. I know for a fact that their
but
voting
you
rights were
brought up
suppressed
marriage.
and they're
You brought
being
up marriage.
suppressed today and it's wrong. Okay? So I don't know
But you
what
brought
you're
up
trying to I don't know
marriage.
how you're trying to color
You
me,
brought
but
up
it's not working.
interracial marriage. It's just like it's like you sitting on some kind of rainbow, fam. Like somewhere in a la
This
la
is so
land.
stupid.
Yo, word up, yo.
That's okay, I'm not
You try to gloss over Charles Darwin's racism.
I fully admitted that
It's
he
basically
was
Charles
racist. I can
Darwin.
even
When
I
was
can
it?
give
In
you
18.
specific examples of his racism, but to
His
compare him
model
to
for
everybody else in
evolution.
his time is inaccurate.
His model. Yo, Charles Darwin is dangerous. Let me tell you why. His model for evolution includes racial extermination
No, it does
and
not.
sexism. It does. The Descent of
No,
Man in
it doesn't.
1871, specifically from a quote from him.
And the quote
Google it.
is
1871, The Descent of Man.
I have that
He
book
says,
right over here. What's the quote?
and you did not read the part where he says that the superior Caucasian race will eventually, inevitably, exterminate the lesser races.
Did he say that they should do that? No.
He said it was an inevitability.
Yeah, well, it would have appeared so at the time, just like it would have appeared
So you
when
do you
Europeans
agree
were
with
coming.
that? Yes. Do
Can
you
you
agree with this?
please
Yes or
stop
no?
talking over me? When Europeans came over to America, it looked like it was inevitable that they would take over. That doesn't make it right. That doesn't make it okay. But it was matter of factly the way things seemed to be going.
What's your stance on
He did
racism?
not. You're making an is ought fallacy here. Him saying what he thinks
Is
will
art
happen is not
fallacy.
him
What is
saying
that?
what should happen.
What's a is art fallacy? What is that?
You cannot derive an ought from an is, meaning if we talk about the way things are, just like matter of factly, like this is the state of things, that doesn't mean that we should do anything. Like, for example, the United States has several thousand nuclear bombs. So if Biden tomorrow was like, you know what, let's just bomb every single person on Earth, there's no reason we should do that just because we have the technology, right? So this thing about like Europeans or whoever this is, Darwin was European, so maybe that's the perspective he was talking about in that book. The idea that they will go out and be colonizers and try to shape Africa to be what they want and exploit it, which has happened, and I agree it's not good and it's evil. Him saying that it will happen is not him saying that it should happen, and you are failing to understand that point.
Bro, he was the first to say that.
You did you not understand anything I just said? All he said was he predicted what will happen. He didn't say what should happen.
Not only did he predict what would happen, he predict what was happening, and he backed it with pseudoscience.
No, he
It was
didn't.
a political agenda. Yo, come on,
You're
man. You're
so unbelievably
mythologizing
wrong
Charles
about this.
Darwin. He's a
And what is
piece of. He's a.
pseudoscientific about Darwin?
It's
What
rooted in
specific
racism.
pseudoscientific claim are you
In
making?
reference to humanity, evolution is rooted in racism and a hierarchy.
No, it isn't.
And racism, by default, is illogical.
I agree that
It,
racism is bad and illogical.
do you agree that it is a mental disorder?
No,
Why not? It's been founded so.
to be a mental disorder.
Yes, by a psychiatrist who was the dean of Harvard.
Who has an agenda, I'm sure. The idea that racism is a mental
Who
disorder,
has
that
an
that doesn't
agenda?
even
Are
make
you
any sense.
serious, fam? Are you serious, fam? See, this is why I say that you're suffering. I'm presenting you with
You,
evidence.
I don't remember you saying. You're giving me the claim from some person from Harvard.
Yeah,
These are schools where
this your people. This what you believe in.
Harvard. I'm not an alumnus
Harvard. He
from
was the
Harvard.
dean of
Those are not
Harvard.
my people.
Alvin Passant. Look it up. Alvin F. Passant.
I'm not interested in what one person says. Not all that much, I guess.
Yes, you are, fam. When we get off of here, when you get off of here, you're gonna go look it up.
I no, I'm
Especially because
probably
it's
gonna
Harvard.
forget
No, you're not.
most of the conversation, honestly.
No, you're not.
I mean, racism being a mental disorder, that just sounds silly.
No, it sounds factual because it is a act. It's a thing.
I agree people shouldn't be racist and it's illogical, but I wouldn't call it a mental disorder.
It is a mental disorder. It has all the symptoms of it. It's been
Such
proven
as
and reported,
such as
such as violent behavior,
that's
such as violent outbursts that are illogical, that make no sense, delusions of grandeur, delusions,
delusions of grandeur.
grandiose delusions.
Oh my god, Franklin.
Look at Buffalo as an example.
Buffalo, New York.
Yeah, what happened there at the
The shooter.
supermarket? Yeah, you say it. I
Oh
didn't.
yeah, I agree. That guy was probably
That's
mentally
racism.
ill.
That's extreme racism.
Well, it's a lot more than just that, though. I mean, it manifests itself in him. You know, he certainly was mentally ill, and it manifested itself in that way. But I wouldn't say that the racism was the mental illness.
You don't think people who are racist are suffering from paranoia and delusions
For the
and
most part,
grandiose
they're just
behavior, grandiose
for the
thoughts, and gaps in their
for
thoughts?
for the most part, they're just deeply ignorant, right? Okay, I can I ask you
No,
a
they're
question?
sick. They're sick.
It's not a sickness. You don't have.
Bro, it's been proven
You cannot
by more
demonstrate
than
that
one
it.
doctor.
You can't demonstrate that it's maladaptive. Okay, so like
It's
to call it
been
a sickness
proven and
doesn't make any
studied.
sense.
It's been proven and studied by more than
Mm-hmm.
one doctor. The only reason it's not in the DSM is because they say it's the cultural norm for Caucasians to be racist and have
You
this
just made a
disorder.
deeply racist claim.
No, you can look it up, bro.
What you just said is a deeply racist claim. It's normal for white people to be racist.
It's a
That's a
cultural
racist
norm.
claim.
It's so many racist Caucasians that it should be considered a cultural norm. And this is how they avoided it.
You're stereotyping white people. You know, when
I'm
people who
telling
are
you about my
when people who
research.
are racist make all
I
the
did not
arguments
write
like,
these words. I did not write these words. The dean of Harvard wrote it.
okay, well then the dean of Harvard is racist. There. So
This is
okay,
based in
I have a
actual
different
study.
question. Yeah,
This
great.
is
I have a
based
different
in actual
question.
study.
I have a different question. Okay, can I ask you a different question?
Shoot,
Do you know what the Nation of Islam is?
absolutely.
Are you a follower of it?
Am I a follower of it? I observe the Nation of Islam.
Okay, well, the Nation of Islam is a racist group because they think white people are genetically inferior and were created in a laboratory. Do you think that?
Are genetically inferior and created in a laboratory?
Yeah. I've had several
That's
people from the Nation of Islam come on here and tell me that.
that's not what they believe.
Yes, it is. I have talked to them.
The people from the Nation of Islam believe in the Quran.
No, the Nation of it's a specific
Are you
group.
saying they have a different Quran?
Oh, for the love of God. They interpret it however they want, which is why we have Sunni
There's a
and
portion of
Shia
the
Muslims,
Quran
for
where there's a
example.
scientist in there. What does this have to do with anything? Why do you bring up the Nation of Islam?
Because it's a hate group. They have those racist ideas about white people, and I'm asking you if you think that those ideas are racist.
I think that those ideas reflect propaganda against propaganda during the times which they were said.
Okay, so
Because there was
that was
minstrel,
not an
there was
answer. The question is, The people of the Nation of Islam are literally classified as a hate group. They think that white people are genetically inferior and were created in a laboratory. Do you think that those specific beliefs are racist, yes or no?
Do I think that? I don't believe that that's what they believe.
It
And
is what they believe.
I'm not a
It is
representative
what
of the Nation of Islam, so
you're
I'm
also not
indifferent.
white, but you have plenty of
I'm
but you are
indifferent to what you're
plenty
asking me.
confident speaking on behalf of what white people believe. So answer the question.
What did you just say?
I said, do you think that their beliefs are racist?
No, before that.
It's irrelevant. Just answer the
No,
question.
it's relevant to me.
You
Please
have
repeat
been
it.
speaking on the behalfs of the beliefs of white people. So you don't have any
No, I
problem.
haven't.
You don't have any
I
problem
haven't.
being in somebody else's shoes speaking on a behalf of them. So I don't care if you're
When
not a
was I?
member of the Nation of Islam.
Where was I speaking on the behalf of so-called white people?
When you tried to psychoanalyze Charles Darwin and tell us what he believed in, for example,
I am not psychoanalyzing Charles Darwin.
whatever. Are you going to answer the
I am
question or
looking
not?
through the scope. I am looking through the scope of Alvin Passant, the dean of Harvard, who, through his studies, found that
Who is
racism
a
to be a
woke
mental
moron? Yeah.
disorder. The
Yeah.
dean of
He's a woke
Harvard is
moron.
a woke moron.
Yes.
Prove it. Prove it.
You giving his statements is you proving
Prove
it.
it.
Okay. So
Prove
this is
it.
the last time we're going to try this. Do you think that the beliefs of the Nation of Islam about white people being genetically inferior are racist? No? You're the racist person here.
I'm not playing your racist games. I'm not
I don't
playing
play
those.
racist games. I asked you a point
You
blank question.
are.
Do you
You
think their
are.
beliefs
You
about
are.
white people being
Why are you
genetically inferior are
asking me that?
racist? And you said no. Now I'm not sure if you meant no, I'm not answering, but if your answer actually is no, you're the actual racist person here.
I didn't answer that. Someone in
Okay,
the
well then answer the
background.
question. I'm going to count
They
backwards
did.
in my head from 5, and that's the amount
No,
of time
I'm
you have
not.
to answer the question.
I'm not answering it. You
Okay,
could kiss
goodbye.
my ass.
There. Okay. Ugh. I'm gonna end the live and then restart it really quick because I'm really afraid of the live getting reported and then I won't have the recording. But I definitely want that recording. So I'll be back in 10 seconds, everybody.